I'm 72 years old, and I've been living alone long enough now that the quiet feels like a second language. I lost my marriage after 33 years, and only recently did I understand how much of that loss belongs to me. I'm not telling this to make myself look better. At my age, that urge burns out. And by the time I finally caught it, the people who mattered most were already gone. If you're younger than me, listen closely. If you're around my age, take a seat next to me. Today, I want to talk about the things that don't leave, the things that stay when the house is quiet and the phone stops ringing. I'm not telling this because I'm proud of it, and I'm not telling it to be forgiven. I'm telling it because there isn't much time left, and this is the truth I live with now. These days, my mornings are slow. I wake up before the sun most mornings, not because I want to, but because my body does it for me. The house creaks the way old houses do, like it's stretching its bones. I sit at the edge of the bed for a minute just to see how everything feels. Knees first, then my back. There's a chair in the kitchen that no one ever sits in anymore. I still set two mugs on the counter sometimes, out of habit. Then I put one back. That's how a lot of my life feels now. Old habits with no one left to share them with. People think loneliness is loud, that it feels like crying or panic or emptiness. But most of the time, it's quiet. It's just the absence of small sounds you didn't realize mattered. I tell you this so you understand where I'm speaking from. I'm not angry anymore. I'm past that. What I feel now is heavier than anger. When I was younger, none of this felt like a mistake. That part matters. I grew up in a house where work meant survival. My father left before I was 10. My mother worked 2 jobs and came home exhausted. Bills were always late. Food was always measured. There was no room for dreaming. There was only getting through the week. So when I got my first real job in my early 20s, I felt like I'd been handed oxygen. It wasn't glamorous. A junior position at a manufacturing firm. Long hours, low pay, but it was steady, and steady felt like safety. I met my wife Margaret around that time. She worked at a bookstore downtown. She had this habit of folding the corner of pages she liked, even though she pretended she didn't. She laughed easily. I didn't. We married young. Too young, maybe. But we believed in building something. That was the word we used back then. Building. I told her I wanted to give us a better life. She believed me, and I meant it. That's the part people don't understand. I didn't wake up one day and decide to abandon my family. I woke up every day thinking I was doing it for them. Success doesn't arrive all at once. It sneaks in quietly. First it was staying late once or twice a week, then weekends, then taking calls at dinner, then missing birthdays because a deal couldn't wait, then missing anniversaries because there would be another one next year. I remember Margaret standing in the kitchen one night, holding a plate I never touched. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just said, "You're always almost here." At the time, I brushed it off. I told her things would slow down after the next promotion, after the next raise, after the next milestone. There was always a next one. Our children were born during those years. A son first, then a daughter. I held them in the hospital and promised myself I'd give them everything I never had. And in a way, I did. They had good schools, nice clothes, vacations, a house that never worried about the heating bill. But I wasn't there for the quiet parts. I wasn't there for the bedtime questions. I wasn't there for the long talks that come out of nowhere. I wasn't there for the moments when kids decide who their parents are. I told myself they wouldn't remember the days I missed. I was wrong. The cost didn't arrive as a disaster. It arrived as distance. Margaret stopped waiting up for me. Then she stopped asking when I'd be home. We talked about schedules more than feelings, logistics more than dreams. The kids stopped bringing me their drawings. Then they stopped bringing me their problems. They learned, quietly, that I was busy. I was proud of how far I'd come, proud of my title, proud of my office with the window, proud of the respect in meetings. I didn't notice that no one reached for my hand anymore. Or maybe I noticed, but told myself it was temporary. That's the lie success whispers, that everything else can wait. The turning point wasn't dramatic. No car crash, no shouting match, no sudden collapse. It was a phone call on an ordinary afternoon. Margaret had been feeling tired for a while. We assumed it was age, stress, life. By the time we took it seriously, there wasn't much to do. I sat in a hospital room holding her hand, listening to machines that measured things I couldn't fix. She looked at me once and said, very softly, "I wish we had more ordinary days." That sentence has followed me everywhere. She didn't talk about money or success or the life we built. She talked about days, simple ones. She was gone 3 weeks later. After the funeral, the house felt wrong. Too big, too quiet, too clean. The kids came by for a while. They did their best. They had their own lives, their own families, their own patterns. I couldn't blame them for not knowing how to sit with me. I tried to reach out. But we were strangers by then, connected more by history than habit. That's something no one tells you. Relationships don't break all at once. They fade when they aren't practiced. Time doesn't heal distance. It deepens it. There are things that can't be fixed. You can't go back and show up after the moment has passed. You can't replay a childhood. You can't rebuild trust with attention you no longer have to give. I have photographs of events I don't remember attending, smiling faces I wasn't fully present for, proof that I was there, even when I wasn't. Now, when people ask me what I did for a living, I tell them, and they nod, impressed, and then the conversation moves on. No one asks who I missed. That's the part that stays with you. If you're listening to this and wondering what I wish I'd known, it's this. Success doesn't sit with you at the end of the day. Titles don't ask how you're feeling. Money doesn't remember you when you're gone. People do. Or they don't. And that depends on how often you chose them when it mattered. I thought presence was something I could give later. I was wrong. Later is fragile. Later assumes time is generous. It isn't. I'm not telling you what to do. I don't have that right. I'm just telling you what I noticed too late. When the work is done and the noise fades, what you're left with is who you showed up for and who showed up for you. If this story meant something to you, if it felt familiar or uncomfortable or true in a way you didn't expect, you're not alone. If you'd like to hear more stories like this, you can subscribe to the channel. You can like this video, share it with someone you care about, or leave a comment below. If you're willing, tell us a little about your own experience, what you chased, what stayed, what you wish you'd held on to longer. I'll be here reading quietly. Because, in the end, when everything else falls away, what remains is simple. We are remembered for where we chose to be.